Big Ten says everything that happened Saturday inconclusive. They're not going to follow precedent they set 2 years ago. And all Michigan State's going to do is just go back in its little turtle shell. We also talk about this Indiana game coming up and a little bit of basketball. Let's go.
You are Locked On Spartans, your daily podcast on the Michigan State Spartans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You can start the season with the big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. Spartan friends, Spartan family, Locked On Spartans listeners, thank you all so much for tuning in to Locked On Spartans. It's your team in green and white 5 days a week. Please rate, review, subscribe, do whatever makes you happy. And programming note, we're switching it around a little bit this week because we typically do our crossover episodes with whoever we're playing. In this case, Locked On Hoosiers. We usually do that Wednesday or Thursday, and then I go solo on Friday, give my final thoughts. But we're going to inside out this week because just an hour after recording with Chase Glasser yesterday, well, the Big Ten comes out with their statement. Michigan State responds, I guess is the technical word to use. But nevertheless, we got to get the thoughts out on this right now, so the crossover episode will be the final episode this week. So join me as we start today's episode of Locked On Jellyfish, where we're going to talk about all things spineless because, wow, what a defiant response from Michigan State on this one. We're going to talk Michigan State right now, and I know that there's still a few Michigan fans lingering around that still watch the videos in the aftermath of their win, and guys, I don't blame you for that. I would do the same thing if I was in your shoes. But I'll just save you all the time. Just cut to the chase, downvote the video, do the little brother comments, because this is going to be a higher level conversation coming up. We're going to use words that maybe you're not used to, like accountability, blame, a $20 word coming up, precedent. That's right. We're going to use all these later on. But let's talk Michigan State right now for all my Spartan fans out there, because you saw the statement, the most predictable outcome possible. The Big Ten, they're not going to do anything of what happened Saturday after the game. They said it's inconclusive and that, quote, no further action will be taken. Now, athletic director Alan Haller, defiant statement after this one, saying, quote, whether or not I agree with the Big Ten's determination, their decision is final. I will continue to work to make sure our student athletes, coaches, and staff are treated fairly. Okay, that's two sentences and one big contradiction. You can't say to start the week at the press conference, quote, we want MSU to be held to the same standard. Well, and then here the Big Ten is not going to keep the same standard. And then just say, okay, shucks. Well, all right, that's right. But then say that you want fair treatment. Which one is it? Are you going to bend at the knee of the Big Ten, or are you actually going to fight for fair treatment for your student athletes, for your school? Because, well, I remember a few years ago, it's not how it typically happened, but more on that in a little bit. Because, look, it's not just, what I like to call rational human beings with eyeballs like myself that saw the aftermath of the video. And no, of course, again, I'm not talking about the shoving between Jones and Loveland. That's ticky-tack. Each team is going to take their side. It's pretty plain to see, well, that at best case scenario, Mullins got a little aggressive there in the tunnel, unless, at least 6 people were pulling him off of a pile and his legs were doing this thing where they go up and then go down aggressively. That's called a stomp. Not sure why there's so much confusion about that, but we've all seen that. I mean, you see the stomping out there, guys. You see the people around him pulling him off, but it's not just, I will call it fanboys that are seeing this. Again, I think it's just people with working eyeballs, but it's, you also heard it from Smith at the press conference on Monday, and Haller saying that they had a player and staff member in that pile. Now, get ready for this one, guys. It's not just me. It's not just Michigan State people, but you also heard Shion Moore say at his press conference what happened on Saturday is, quote, unacceptable, and he will take care of it in-house. I just used your own person there. Unless he was talking about the peacekeeping being unacceptable, or the peacekeeping is something that's going to be taken care of in-house. He even acknowledged that something happened after the game, guys. Again, we're dealing with reality here. I know it's a little uncomfortable out there for some people, but let's get back to the reality of how brutal of a response that was for Michigan State. The Big Ten says, yawn. Haller says, well, after talking up a big game, okay. go after Tony Petitti, the Big Ten commissioner. All right? Like, what are you afraid of if you are defiant and say, no, that's not good enough, we demand more? What, you're going to get more night games last year? You're going to have another game at Ford Field in the next few years? What, you're going to stop getting preferential treatment by the Big Ten? Like, what's going to happen if you are defiant against the Big Ten? Instead of just going back into the turtle shell and being like, oh, okay, never mind. Sounds good. All right, your decision's fine. It's completely weak. Completely weak. And I'm still an Alan Haller guy somehow, but more on that later. Ben wrote in on Twitter, in the midst of all this, wrote to me, please do not let this die or shy away from it. It needs to be pushed until something is done. To which I answered, well, golly gee willikers, Ben, I really thought that was the athletic director's job. All right, but fine, I'll do it. You know, I've carried enough water for this program on unbillable hours. What's one more mile carrying this water? The Big Ten and Tony Petitti say it is inconclusive, and they're refusing to even investigate it. It wasn't even inconclusive after investigating it. Straight up cannot be bothered to even go around, talk to people, look at more videos. They're just saying, you know what, the team that we wanted to win won. Pesky little Michigan State, they're not going to get their way. Let's just all move on with our lives. But that's odd because I remember 2 years ago, right, in that tunnel. And no, I'm not talking about Kari Crump, okay? Anyone that's rational, anyone that is just a halfway decent human being, you know, saw that Crump, yes, should absolutely have been suspended, if not outright just kicked out of the university, okay? And you see how easy that was to just admit fault and, you know, pin blame that someone on your team did something wrong. You can do it. It is possible, guys. But no, I'm not talking about Crump. I'm talking about, well, ask about Tank Brown, what he thought of the video, all right? Seemed inconclusive for him. How about Justin White? How about Brandon Wright? How about Zion Young? How about Jacoby Windman? How about Angelo Gross? Or, geez, how about Malcolm Jones? A guy that wasn't even charged in the end of all this yet was still suspended for almost the rest of the entire season. I don't know. I think the video was pretty inconclusive for them. That didn't stop everyone from jumping down their throats, demanding everyone get sent in jail. And, well, Michigan State suspending the players and keeping those suspensions while working with the Big Ten until they concluded their investigation. I don't want people charged. I'm not weird. I'm not looking to ruin the lives of these young men. I don't want Mullins to go to the Jackson State prison. Absolutely not. No, that's for you weirdos 2 years ago that wanted every single person in green and white arrested. No, I just want it to be fair. Let me make it unequivocally clear, actually, what I want. Now, before saying what I do want, here's what I don't want. And I've heard some of this, too, from, of course, the Michigan side of things and Michigan State side of things, too, saying, well, the staffer and the player should come out publicly and talk about it, right? I actually disagree with that because I assume the staffer, the player, I hope that they're okay. Obviously, you know, the injuries they had aren't life debilitating, right? Because they'd probably be in a hospital right now. We'd probably hear about it by now. I don't think that we should hear from them publicly. And not to paint every single Michigan fan as a monster. Of course not, guys. I'm much smarter than that. But, I think it would be a little too detached from reality to think that it would just go great if, the staffer just came forward. We're talking about people that posted the home address of a referee that from the state of Ohio back in 2016 after he correctly called JT Barrett's first down a first down. I think if the staffer came forward, his name got out there. Or I'll just say his or her name get out there. I don't think that would end well for anyone. I think a lot of snooping would be done. A lot of twisting and bending of stories would be done. I don't think that's going to be healthy for anyone involved. So I know I get it. It would make a lot of sense for stories to come out. Aftermath would not go that well. Been around this rivalry well enough. I'm on Twitter long enough to know that, okay, it would get ugly very quickly. Anyway, here is what I want. Let me just be very, 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 very clear. I want fairness. And I know that's going to get a lot of people just crying, little brother. I actually think the little brother thing in all this would be just crying to the cops and the county prosecutor immediately after everything happens. If you want to go the little brother route, I think, well, that's what happened. I just want fairness. If it was, 7 guys getting suspended in the inconclusive parties 2 years ago, well, the least you could do is at least investigate it. I don't think I'm asking too much here. But above all that, I want our athletic director to be somebody. And again, I've been in his corner. I probably still am. I mean, the night games, yeah, I actually like them selfishly. It works in my life a lot better than day games or afternoon games. Like that Ford Field game at Detroit last year, my opinion on this. I actually thought it was fine. I think it's pretty cool to do that once every 5 years because, well, you've seen what the last week of this game is like at Spartan Stadium. Not well attended. Giving Mel Tucker $95 million extension. Look, back then, absolutely the right choice. In the landscape of college football, there were other teams hot on him. It was a fantastic season for Michigan State. Hindsight's 2020, but all that we could do is just go back to what the situation was. And guys, look, all of the sports seem to be doing well. Women's soccer, gymnastics, hockey, etc. I mean, look, it's largely been a positive here under Alan Haller. I mean, sure, in hindsight, probably ridiculous to suspend everyone in that tunnel while working with the Big Ten. Probably could have been a little stronger on that, I'd assume. But this is ridiculous, right? Like, we see something happen. You said something happened, Alan. I say, again, it's not just the crazy fanboys like me that are just seeing something that's not really happening. Like, no, it's plain to see. And you also said it. Again, what's going to happen if you go at the Big Ten? MSU is going to get dragged? A newsflash. That already happens 7 days a week, 365 days a year. I can't believe that we're just doing the whole thing of, oh, well, you know what? I want everyone to be treated fairly. Well, then say something about it. Be somebody. Just be somebody. All right, we're going to be back here in a hot second. First, need to talk your ears off about FanDuel Sportsbook. Now, guys, get ready for the NFL action with FanDuel. Of course, we're talking America's #1 sportsbook because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. Guys, the FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Talked about it earlier this week, but over the weekend had a nice little 5-leg anytime touchdown score parlay, $5. Guys, I could probably buy a nice pair of season tickets in the section of 16, my favorite section of Spartan Stadium, with those winnings. So thank you very much, FanDuel, for that one. Join in on the fun, whether it's Saturday, NFL Sunday, do it over at FanDuel.com. Again, guys, you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's over at FanDuel.com, America's #1 sportsbook. Again, FanDuel.com. All right, continuing our conversation from yesterday when it comes to the Michigan State-Indiana game. It's going to be a bit important game here. We talked a lot about the Hoosiers yesterday, what their offense is built like. We talked RPOs, right? And you know what? We also mentioned that the quarterback can be a running threat. And, there's been some pushback on that by Indiana fans. And after 1 a.m, Chase Glasser of Spartans Illustrated, he texted me this just to clear everything up right now. And we're going to do some educating for, everyone involved here. Chase writes in, because I am getting lightly toasted in the comments in talking about Indiana, it may have been a bit much to say they run the quarterback a lot. But I will 100% contend that they do a lot of post-snap mesh point reads where the quarterback is a theoretical run threat that needs to be accounted for, just to inform your further commentary. That said, I still hold that they run some tricky RPOs in their offense. The second TD versus Nebraska was one of the best RPOs I've seen all year. It was. That was a nice one. The 5th touchdown versus Nebraska was an RPO as well. They also have some pitch relationship option stuff as well, just to defend my bona fides here and to inform further conversation / phrasing with IU people as the week goes on. Now, the comments that he could be alluding to right here. This one is Mr. Cheevius over here. They wrote in on the video. As a lifelong Indiana fan who has watched every minute of every game this year, I just want to correct you. Okay, that starts cordial enough. Indiana's quarterbacks do not run often, nor do they run much RPO. Okay, we can correct that here in a little bit. Don't make proclamations if you aren't bothering to watch them play. Fake it till you make it right. Okay, well, that's not the only comment they left, because there was a Michigan fan that said, well, hey, these two nerds talked all that crap before the Michigan game. I don't think it was like beating our chest talking crap. We just talked about why we could win. We didn't. And then said they try to come on and make all the excuses why they lost. Why they lost. That's how they read it. That's the people we're dealing with right here. I was so certain that we didn't make a single excuse that I said, if you could find one excuse I made, I will donate $500 to the charity of your choice. Do not blow this. Guys, this is going to shock you. Have not heard back from that Michigan fan because I'm still sure they're combing to see where they can find an excuse. Anyway, our excited Indiana fan said, I'll bet you $500 that your line about Indiana's quarterbacks running a lot or, quote, a lot of RPO. I say line because you claim to be watching their games when, in fact, you actually are not. And forget that charity BS. You can pay that directly to me. Don't blow this. Well, get your checkbook ready, Mr. Cheevius, because we got three things to look at. We got the numbers, we got the eyeballs, and I'm going to use your guys again. We're going to talk about the Hoosiers, too, what they have to say about RPO. The numbers, okay, really can't argue against these. You guys run RPO roughly 25% of your plays, according to J. Bud Davis. That's above average for the nation. The nation average is somewhere around 19-20%. So right there, that's a good start for you over there. You certainly run it more than Iowa, Michigan. That's relevant to Michigan State fans. That's why we're talking about RPO. It's going to, be a month since we've seen an RPO attack like this. Now let's talk about our eyeballs, too, what you can watch from the games that, just like you apparently, that has watched every minute of every game. Yeah, we've watched some of these, too. You guys had 2 touchdowns against Nebraska off of RPOs. All right, you should have had 3 touchdowns off RPOs against Washington. You got stuffed on it twice at the 1-inch line against Washington. Then your 3rd touchdown, 4th touchdown, you guessed it, RPO. 1 touchdown against Northwestern. You scored another one against Maryland on an RPO. So you guys run a lot of it, especially in the red zone, which I think as a football fan, what a team does in the red zone, pretty important to talk about. So again, that's just not just me, just not knowing what I'm talking about. I never watch any football or any Indiana guys. No, let's get some quotes from actual players and coaches on your team about RPO. This is from a Sports Illustrated story after your great win against Nebraska. Quote, when a team decides to load the box up, we throw RPOs behind that. If they try to stop the RPO, we get big runs like today. That was what Miles Cross, wide receiver, said. And he also went on to say, we had a lot of big runs that popped today. It plays off each other. I feel like the RPOs and hand the ball off, it complements each other really well. It keeps the defense off balance. Well, how about Curt Cignetti, a guy that's doing fantastic work down there at Bloomington, saying, quote, the box count was probably in our favor, which tells me they were probably overplaying the RPOs. We were handing the ball off and gaining yards. Now, I get it. Football's new to Indiana. I get you're a lifelong fan or whatever you mean by that, but RPO isn't just the quarterback running or not running. What Indiana does, what Curtis Rourke does a great job of, is leaving it to either the running back or someone that is a receiver to pass it. You get the option of running or passing the ball. It's not just the quarterback, all right, decided to keep it for himself. There are teams that are famous for that, of course. Not Indiana. It can be a running back, wide receiver option, and it is right here. Again, I know it's very tough, but just to take care of that bet right there, the Believe in Miracles Foundation, if you could just go ahead and donate $500 to them. It's very akin to Make-A-Wish Foundation. It's kind of local to Metro Detroit, so if you could just donate to the Believe in Miracles Foundation, $500 for that, because I think that was enough evidence right there just by saying that you've watched every game and you know what you're talking about. All right, so turns out that we do know what we're talking about again. All right, now Lynch Adams Enthusiast writes in, will the Michigan and Boston College loss be forgiven? If we upset Indiana, that'll do it for me at least. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, no, look, don't get me wrong. Like, last week sucked, right? I think I've been incredibly clear on that. I'm not going to lie through my teeth and say, it's not going to bother me for long. No, that's an incredibly annoying loss. It's going to bother me for quite some time. But, wow. Anytime that, again, not just even getting to bowl eligibility, which you would, of course, be one step closer to, and that's going to be the success of the whole season, always have been this offseason, has been at every step of this season. If you just get a bowl in year one of this rebuild, success. Cannot be like this forever, will not be like this forever, but in year one of a rebuild, if you can get to 6 wins, bowl for the first time in 3 years, success. You're one step closer to that, that's great, okay? That'd be awesome. It's also just a win over a top 15 team, right? I mean, I get it. It's not, your Penn States, your Ohio States, your name brand top 15 teams, but Indiana's incredibly good, guys. We've talked about that, right? Yes, weak schedule. Like, it's not really an opinion. It is one of the weaker schedules you will find, but they are still buzzsawing teams right in half. They are winning these games by double digits routinely. They are constricting teams in the second half. How many times have they gone into a locker room this year? Well, it's like, okay, a close game, if not a tied game, and then just dummy up the other team. Like, this would be an impressive bounce back win for Michigan State, not just because Indiana's a very good team, but just all the emotions and the physicality off last week's game, too. This is a quick turnaround. man, you're going to really learn how headstrong this team is. And I think they are a headstrong team. They came out of the bye playing their best game in 3 years after, getting beaten to a pulp by Ohio State and Oregon. So, yeah, this is going to be another, trophy win here. It's quite literally the brass spittoon, but just for Jonathan Smith getting his team right after some adversity. So, I know it sounds ridiculous. Of course, we wanted to win last week, but, man, that would be big because top 15 win, and you're one step closer to bowl eligibility, and that's a success for the season. So, no, I will agree with that. That would right the wrongs. We got another mailbag question to get to. We're going to talk a little bit about basketball, and then I'm just going to give you my 5 best bets at the end of this episode here. But first, you need to talk your ears off about 5 Hour Energy. Our friends over at 5 Hour Energy know that being a passionate football fan isn't just a hobby, it's a way of life, guys. It takes a lot of energy to power through all-day tailgating, the touchdown celebrations, and the agonizing second overtime, which is why they've created the Stand the Fan 5 Hour Energy Shot with a special flavor called Fan Fuel. The energy shot made just for super fans like us, the fans who are the first in the parking lot and who are last to leave. We see you. You know what else gives me a boost of energy watching the Spartans as I'm pounding the Fan Fuel this week? Well, of course, it's going to be watching the Michigan State offense, right? Nathan Carter, great game last week. I'm pretty high now on him after starting the first 6 weeks, not so high in the run game. But hey, look at us, guys. 5 Hour Energy knows that no matter what team you root for, being a fan requires heart, soul, and a whole lot of energy. Whether you're preparing for the big tailgate or ironing your jersey, your game day to-do list is always a mile long. That's why the limited edition Stand the Fan 5 Hour Energy Shot is here to help keep you fueled throughout the season. What is your fan fuel this week? Whatever it is, do it with 5 Hour Energy, available on 5hourenergy.com, shopped nationwide. All right, let's get back into the mailbag here for one question before talking about MSU. That's right, pounding Ferris State in an exhibition, whatever. All right, Spartan 1963 writes in. And I side with you, Spartan 1963. I'm quite the worrier myself. And they write in, am I worrying too much about the possibility of a 5-6 Michigan State versus 5-6 Rutgers? Winner gets a bowl game in a half-empty stadium after Thanksgiving bad weather game. Sorry, I stumbled through that. But yes, they're worried. Will it be a 5-6 MSU versus 5-6 Rutgers? Half-filled Spartan Stadium, bad weather after Thanksgiving game, which, that's always the weather after the Thanksgiving game, right? It's horrible. Hypothermia sets in before your ticket's even scanned for that one. Anyway, I'm actually going to give you some optimistic numbers, and I'm going to go to a website that hasn't given us optimistic numbers many times this season, from the offseason to during the season. Whenever we checked in with kfordratings.com, well, the numbers haven't been great. He's a great guy, though. We had him on preseason. I'd love to talk to him again. Anyway, guys, he gives Michigan State a 72% chance of getting to at least 6 wins for the rest of the year. All right, that's going to put a smile on all of our faces. Now, it's going to be tough because it's a 16% chance to beat Indiana. In our conversation with Chase Glasser yesterday, I said that, that sounds, actually it was 19% yesterday. It's already changed overnight. I said that 19% sounds about right, unfortunately. Now, Chase was a little higher on Michigan State. He likes the athletes Michigan State has. But nevertheless, let's not get it twisted here. It would be a pretty decently sized upset win if they do beat Indiana. Now, you do have a 43% chance against Illinois. That'll be on the road. Both teams off of a bye week. It won't just be Michigan State just off a bye week. The Illini, too. Now, the last 2 games of the season, this is where the numbers get a little happier. An 86% chance against Purdue and a 55% chance against Rutgers. But Spartan 1963, yes, there is a real world where we are stumbling into the last weekend with just 5 wins and having to sweat a game out against Rutgers. That's why I was so bummed after the Boston College game. That's why I was so bummed after the Michigan game. It wasn't just, the fact that, hey, they got Paul Bunyan and we don't. It's also, well, dang it, that'd be really, really comfortable to be going into those last 3 games needing just 1 win. Now you need 2. Anyway, let's go talk about Shooty Hoops, because last night, on Big Ten Network Plus, your Michigan State basketball Spartans, they got the 85-67 win over Ferris State. And we just got a little bit of notes that we want to talk about. Second exhibition game for our Michigan State Spartans. And the positives, look, guys, it's Ferris State. We're not going to make any sweeping proclamations. It kind of just reaffirms what we think going into the season. Frankie Fiddler is everything that we said he was going to be. 3-level scorer. He's very physical. He gets to the free throw line plenty. He did it 7 times, I believe, against Ferris State. But that's one of the calling cards that we had even before he transferred here. It's why he's so important to get him on this team. He draws contact. He gets to the foul line. No one has done that in 5 years at Michigan State. All right, Jace Richardson. Okay, he's solid. He's really solid even as a true freshman. And yes, 8 points, 3 of 3 on field goals against Ferris State. But what we've seen even starting in that Spain trip, his defense is strong. That is college-ready defense for a true freshman. That's going to find you the floor here at Michigan State. Kurtang, yes, he will have a role this season. And Jeremy Fears, too. Solid outing for him. 8 assists, 9 points. He even hit a 3-pointer. So, again, we're not going to make the sweeping proclamation that he's back. The Big Ten's on notice just because he did solid against Ferris State. But you know what? That's better than nothing, I suppose. So there's also, maybe not a ton of other positives from this game here. And I'm not saying that the season's over. Actually, you know what? We're going to go to the mailbag for this one. LockedOnSpartans@gmail.com, because I will let it be someone else's words, guys. I will let this be Nicholas's words here, because he wrote in, I believe this could be the team that makes us miss the tournament. Yes, that was after the second exhibition game, but I don't know. We'll see how off base he is. Akens is supposed to be the leader, but still, as a senior, he looks lost out there. I was hoping for Booker would take a step up, but seems to still be a liability on the defensive end. I think we were all right about Sapala. He does not belong at MSU, and I have no clue why he's even here. I know it's early, but this looks like it's going to be a rough year. I hope I'm wrong. Also emailing later. Also, Richardson needs to start over Akens. Now, will they miss the tournament? Look, right now, I don't think so, but I would be lying if I said it's not possible. Like, it's a lot that they'll make it again. No, it's this season has so many question marks and what ifs. It swings anywhere between what I think is like a 4 seed in the NCAA tournament, being one of those top 16 teams, or, the alternative, missing the tournament altogether. There is no shortage of question marks going into this season. We're getting some answers, but unfortunately, some of the answers aren't the ones that are positive, like Akens. And again, I know we're going off of 2 exhibition games and 3 games over in Spain. But guys, okay, in 4 of those games, the Madrid game, Valencia, Northern Michigan, and now Ferris State, that's 4 games. He's had 5 field goals combined in those 4 games. All right, the 5th game, I think, was the last game of the Spain trip. He did fine. All right. Now, why am I talking like this, though? Is it just because, I'm just irrational? I'm rooting against the kid? No, absolutely not. I love Jaden Akens. Always loved him. I'm one of the first people that said I'm actually more excited about the Akens commitment than the Imani Bates commitment when that was a thing. All right, I want this kid to succeed. But, guys, in that 5-game sample size, even though they're not officially games on record, isn't that kind of a mirror image of what he's been here at Michigan State? Just incredibly up for a very short amount of time and then down, very down. That's kind of just who he's been his whole career. And I know that he's replacing Tyson Walker, and can he do it? Can he replace Tyson? Guys, can he even get close to replacing Tyson Walker? We're not even asking for 18 points that Tyson Walker left behind. That's a lot to ask for, but this is what Tyson Walker also did really well. He was consistent, which is very hard to come by in college basketball. I'll be the first to say that. Consistency is one of those words thrown around. It's actually a lot easier said than it is to, do. Hey, but Tyson Walker, he just had 1 game last year that was in single-digit scoring. All right, Tyson Walker, you can always rely on him for double-digit points. Jaden, to call him dependable, reliable for offense, just go back to his whole career. He's had some awesome flashes, guys. He's had some brilliant games. It will happen this year. But I think we're going to get a season where he's going to average 11 points a game, but the game logs are going to be 5 points on 1 of 7 shooting, and then 3 points on 1 of 13 shooting, and then 6 points on 3 of 5 shooting, and 22 points. Whoa, on 7 of, we'll call it 11 shooting, then right back down to 2. You get what I'm talking about, because we've seen it. It happened again against Ferris State. I think 1 field goal for him. Not going to cut it here. And the big men, let's be serious. Zappala 1 for 5. I know he looked good against Northern Michigan. Guys, that was a Northern Michigan team that has one guy that's taller than 6'8". Of course he looked good against Northern Michigan. Everyone should have looked good against Northern Michigan. So, again, I hope I am dead wrong on this. I'm not going to be one of these people that, hey, predict bad things, and I'm going to actually be happy when the bad things keep happening. No, first and foremost, I'm a Michigan State fan. I want to see this team succeed. I want to eat crow. So badly. I'm starving for crow right now, but 1 for 5 from Zappala yesterday. All right. And now Kohler, 9 points, 11 rebounds. Great. Awesome. You know what? That's good. Right. Carson Cooper, he had an alley-oop finish, but it's going to be another tough season for the big men, I think. Jackson Kohler, I think you can actually have some hope in, but we actually have to see it before we raise the banner of, yes, we finally have a big man that can maybe scrape double digits once every 4 games here. I don't know. You can hear my voice that I'm really excited about this upcoming season. Monmouth coming up Monday. It's going to be great. Woohoo. Niagara on deck after that. That's right. Get ready. All right, let's do 5 best bets to end this week, guys. Again, make all your action over at FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And for the first time in 5 weeks, guys, we were actually in the red last week. We were 2 and 3 for 5 best bets, which moves us to 28 and 17 overall on the season. Now, this week, I'm sorry I'm just so down right now, but I also think Indiana's a very good team. And I don't think, just like we talked about yesterday with Chase Glasser, I don't think that Jordan Turner suspension in the first half is not nothing. It's not going to be the sole reason Michigan State is behind the 8 ball in this game, but I think him on the field at that linebacker position, especially against those RPOs, where you got to stay home on, got to be disciplined, got to be athletic, I think that's going to be an Indiana win. So we're going to take Indiana -7 for the first best bet. All right. Nebraska -7 over UCLA. I continue to be a hater of the UCLA Bruins out there. And then Penn State +3.5 over Ohio State. Maybe this is a sucker bet. I think that Ohio State just doesn't look right. I'm saying what every other talking head is saying. So, yeah, we're going to go ahead and take the cheese on the mousetrap right there. Penn State +3.5 at home over Ohio State. Under 42.5 for Wisconsin versus Iowa. And then to end this thing right here, it's been a while since we've jumped on the Jay Johnson hate parade. Right now, they got New Mexico this week. I'm going to go under 60.5 for Wyoming against New Mexico. New Mexico can very well score 40 points. Can Wyoming even score 20 over their offensive coordinator? I'm just not sure. Am I not sure? I mean, I doubt it. So, yeah, there we go, guys. Those are the 5 best bets. Go ahead, fade those, tail those, do whatever makes you happy. And, again, we will be back tomorrow with Locked on Hoosiers to set you into the weekend. Until then, guys, love you all. Go Green.